Have you ever heard of the lost colony of Roanoke Island? It's a fascinating story about how early colonists got lost. The entire colony was gone and never to be found again. Fort Raleigh National Historical Site tells a story of Roanoke Island, the lost colony, and what happened at the island during the Civil War. Fort Raleigh National Historical Site is right by Albemarle Sound near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It has the main location where there are some leftover earthen forts and a waterside theater, as well as the Elizabethan Garden, which is managed separately. All three are well worth the visit. Since the pandemic limited our travels, we decided to go around some of the national park sites, not the flagship national parks, but national park sites around our area. And a couple of them were located near the Outer Banks of North Carolina. 3 of them, in fact, the Wright Brothers Memorial, the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, as well as the Fort Raleigh National Historical Site. We stopped by the National Historical Site on our way home from the Outer Banks, and it was a very interesting story. Even though the visitor center itself was closed during our visit, walking around the grounds and reading the plaques really gave us a good understanding of what happened here. Let me tell you the story about the lost colony of Roanoke Island. It all started in 1584 when Sir Walter Raleigh, and oh, by the way, even though this park is named after him, he never set foot in America. Instead, he was the sponsor of the trips that came from England to explore the New World. Well, in 1584, the first reconnaissance trip was taken by 2 ships, and it was a charter from Queen Elizabeth and Sir Walter Raleigh. The mission was to find a suitable place for settlement and to counter the Spanish Armada that was nearby. In July of that year, the 2 vessels arrived off of the coast of North Carolina, and the folks on the trip quickly established a relationship with the Algonquin Indians that is on Roanoke Island. After several weeks, they departed back to England with glowing reports about this new world and the Algonquin Indians. And that perhaps created a false expectation of how wonderful things were going to be for the people who came after them. In the spring of 1585, Raleigh dispatched 7 ships carrying about 600 people to Roanoke Island so that he can establish a military outpost here. This is the time when the earthen fort was built. After the earthen fort was built, the English left 107 soldiers and colonists on the island, and the rest returned to England. The remaining 107 soldiers and colonists explored the area, but things did not go well. They grew increasingly dependent on the Algonquins to provide food, and in the process, the Indians caught the disease from the Europeans and began dying. The relationships got tense. The English killed the chief of the Algonquin Indians, Chief Wingina. The returning English were supposed to get additional supplies and come back. So when the expected supplies did not come back at the expected time, the colonists accepted a offer from Sir Francis Drake, who happened to stop by Roanoke Island on their way back, and they decided to go back to England. However, when the supply did come back, when Sir Granville actually returned with the supply, they found the colonists gone. So he left 15 men to maintain England's tenuous foothold in America. The 1585 military expedition did not go well. They ended up killing the chief of the Indians, was having problems getting food, and returned when they could via a English ship. So far, everybody seemed to be accounted for. So where's the lost colony? Well, in 1587, the 3rd trip was taken, and the goal was to establish a true colony. And there were 117 colonists that were supposed to go to Chesapeake Bay, but because the captain of the ship that they were on refused to go further from Roanoke Island, they had to stop and disembark at Roanoke Island. These colonists looked for the 15 men that was left over but could not find them. And the Indians, Algonquin Indians, remember what happened the 2 years before, and was not very happy about them coming back, and they end up killing a colonist while he was crabbing, and then the colonists attacked the nearby Indian village, killing a villager. So the relationships was very tense. The leader of the voyage was John Wright. When the food started running low and things got bad, he decided that he needed to return to England for relief and to bring additional supplies. Now, these colonists promised that if they left Roanoke Island before White comes back, they will carve their destination in a tree. When John White got back to England, because of the war that was going on with the Spanish, they needed every ship, so they had to delay his return trip back to Roanoke Island. He did not come back until 1590, 3 years later. When John White returned, he found a silent settlement with the letters Croatoan carved into a post and the letters CRO carved into a tree. They suspected that Croatoan means Croatoan Island, which is now known as Hatteras Island. So they set out looking for the colonists at what is present-day Hatteras Island. However, a hurricane at the time forced them to go back to England instead of going to Croatoan Island or Hatteras Island, and because of that, the fate of the colonists remained a total mystery. Sure, there are many theories abound on what happened, but no hard proof of any kind. Aside from the story of the lost colony, there is also a story about what happened at the Roanoke Island during the Civil War. The Army back then, the Union Army, established a freedom's colony, which is a safe place for the free slaves to come. By 1865, almost 3,500 people lived in 560 log dwellings, which they had built, along with a hospital, church, schools, and a sawmill. The Army decommissioned the colony in 1867, and President Andrew Johnson decided that he was going to give the people to reclaim the land, and therefore the free slaves could not stay because their land that they were on was taken away from them, so they had to scatter. There are 3 places to visit when you come to Fort Raleigh here. There is the main Fort Raleigh area, an historical site, which has got a visitor center. It's got a path going to a reconstructed earthen fort from 1865. There is the Thomas Harriot Trail that leads right to the shores of the Albemarle Sound with a nice view. Thomas Harriot, by the way, was the scientist in the 1585 trip. There is also the Freedman's Colony Monument, which is near the visitor center. It's a monument to the Freedman's Colony. Now, the second part is very interesting, which is the Waterside Theater. At this theater, they present the Lost Colony play, which is a symphonic play, every summer. It is obviously a story about the Lost Colony of 1587. The Lost Colony, which was first staged in 1937, is the nation's premier and longest-running outdoor symphonic drama. The theater is absolutely beautiful, with the Albemarle Sound as the backdrop. The third part is a wonderful garden called the Elizabethan Garden. You can walk there from the visitor center, or you can take a drive there and park closer. It is a 10-acre garden that is full of very interesting exhibits. It is operated by the Garden Club of North Carolina, so it is separate, and they do charge an admissions fee. It is truly an English garden with lots of plants, obviously, but also fountains and statues that is very interesting to visit. It is 10 acres, so it's probably worth walking around for about an hour in the garden and to look at all the flowers and the different decorations. As with every National Park Service unit, there is a compelling story that establishes the park, and the Fort Raleigh is no different. It is a small site, but it tells a fascinating story of the Lost Colony and the Freedman's Colony story. You know, that's one of the wonderful parts about visiting these National Park Service locations. You learn a lot. If you ever come to the Outer Banks, Raleigh National Historical Site is a place that you really should come and visit. The whole Outer Banks area, with the Raleigh National Historical Site, the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, and the Wright Brothers National Memorial, along with the Jockey's Ridge State Park, are wonderful places to visit. I will allocate probably 2 hours to the Raleigh National Historical Site by itself, and by all means, if you come in the summertime, you have to go see the play. We are on our way to visit all the national parks in the United States. Follow along by hitting the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell so you know when a new video is released. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and please share it with everybody that you know.